All right. What I got going on here is I laid out my forged carbon material or chopped carbon, and then I sprayed adhesion on the back of it. So now I could have it in kind of like sheet form. So instead of it being on the mold, I kind of was able to do the best of my ability to level it. Never gonna be perfect, but I tried. So got this thing waxed. This thing's good to go. And so now all I'm going to do is actually do a light misting onto the mold surface itself. And now start placing this stuff. So the way I laid out my template is it starts right there. And then it should just fall right into here. So the only hiccup we have now, obviously, is seeing if I applied a little too much spray tech, because I do have to get it to go inside of my mold, and boy is this thing not playing nice.
All right, I figured I would do a voiceover and just kind of accelerate the process of what I'm doing here. So the first mistake I made is I applied way too much of the 3M spray tack on the back side of the material, and that made it very challenging to really have the material fall into place smoothly. So it was cracking, it was snapping, it was not being user-friendly at all. So on the next version, the passenger side, I'm probably going to spray maybe about 75% less. So that way the misting is just holding it in place, but not really locking it in place, because this was a challenge. And in all honesty, I thought the part was going to fail. The vacuum was my only hope of any kind of success. And luckily the part did not fail and it worked out great. But this is definitely a learning lesson that the spray tech could definitely be an enemy if you overdo it. Now, the other thing I did was when I designed the mold, the flange area was good based on the measurements and the mathematics of the 3D side. However, in real life, when I started applying all the material, that flange was scary. Like, I had very minimal amount of flange for the gum tape, and that's why you see me trimming all the excess now, because I was really concerned I was not going to have any room for the vacuum seal, let alone the Peel Ply and all the other consumables that I have to put onto this project. So that was definitely another thing that I've learned, was stop being cheap with the 3D printing time and just really add more flange. So I am going to redesign this mold a little bit for the passenger side, give myself more flange so that way I don't have to stress over it, because this was not a fun thing to worry about. And as you see, cutting all the little things, double checking where the body lines are is not fun. So that definitely delayed the whole project. So lesson learned, way less spray tack on the base of the chopped material, and then more flange. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to revisit the CG side of the project, adjust that, and then we'll start 3D printing the passenger side. But otherwise, that is kind of everything that I want to point out in terms of keynotes of things, do's and don'ts, if you will. So that's that. All right, now in this stage, what I started doing was I grabbed some of my excess carbon fiber material, and now I'm just cutting it into little squares and just slowly filling in the back side. Since the chopped carbon is only the facing side, I don't need to keep adding that for the back side. And since I did want a little bit more thickness in the shape, and also to make sure there's no light leak pinhole areas, that's what this is for, just to really fill the voids of the backside and just add more depth to the part itself so it's more sturdy and gives me a little bit of an edge to sand when it comes to that part. So that's in a nutshell this stage. All right, so now what I started doing is adding some of these tinier bits to, I guess you could say, the surrounding edges of the part. And the reason for that is the way I want this to mount to my car is to have like a nice rounded lip. So my logic was, if I increase the thickness of the outside edges only, so I'm not trying to add more thickness to the center part, only the outside edges. So here the goal is I add all these little strips to the outside. This is going to give me some more elevation with the height itself of the part. It's also going to give me more carbon fiber to sand and bevel the edge on, as well as, because it is chopped carbon, the surface is always lumpy. There's absolutely no way without it being, I guess, some kind of machine that levels everything out to make it an even layup. It's always going to have like a little lump and bump to the texture of the surface. So my logic was, if I add these edges on the outside, the areas that I'm going to add my double-sided tape on, I could now elevate that further away from the surface. Now this is going to give me an area that I could sand the backside of as well to help level it off. Because when I started sanding the backside, even this took quite a bit of sanding to start leveling it off. But this also is going to help me give a more even contact with the double-sided tape to the OEM body of the car. And so that's what I'm doing here. So I'm just adding only the edges of the part, and just keep raising it and raising it. So I did two full layers of these things, and it actually worked out very well in the ad. It gave me a nice beveled edge to the part and enough material where I could sand down and smooth it all out to the best of my ability. So that way, when I do add the double-sided tape and install it on the car, it's going to be a pretty flush mount.
Okay, so now, as we're wrapping this up, it's the Peel Ply stage. And what I'm going to do, because I have this segment of Peel Ply laying around, actually I might be able to just use the whole thing. All right, so let's do that. I'm going to give it a gentle spray, just so I can start locking the Peel Ply down. And then we'll work our way through it. Alrighty. Alright, I got music playing, so I'm just gonna mute it on the YouTube thing. But now it's flow mesh stuff. All right, so to explain what I have going on, resin's coming into here and it's working its way up to the finish line right over here. I left this gap with no flow mesh simply because I'm using slow cure resin, so it's gonna take a while to move its way through the part, or it's gonna give me a lot of time to move without it working or hardening. And the vacuum line, due to my lack of flange area, as you can see, is gonna be right here. So what's gonna happen is, to prevent a lot of resin going into the vacuum hose, I'm letting it kind of just slowly creep into here. So eventually at some point there will be some resin going in, but not enough to create any concerns. And then here, I left this completely exposed without any flow mesh because I want as much of the vacuum bag inside these crevices as possible to help eliminate bridging, simply because you saw what happened with the layup with the spray tack that I put on the back side. This is going to be a really sketchy area. So now it's time for me to start bagging it, and that's going to be a nightmare of its own, because any of these fibers over here could cause a potential source of leakage. So yeah, that's going to be a fun thing to start tracking down here in a second. I know I'm going to have a leak and no idea how bad. So stay tuned, I guess. All right, the annoying stage, the bagging. So let's see how this works out. I got my bag ready, and as always, gonna start with the edge. All right, now the moment of truth. Put some vacuum on it and see what the heck is going on. All right, I got the vacuum on. Now it's the moment of truth to see if we have a leak, and if we do, how bad is it? Let's just go move this up here. Alright. Oops. Alright, so naturally I want the bag to be inside of this crevice, and this crevice. Just like that. Really let the bag do its thing. Then we're gonna move some of this out here. Okay. Pull this back a little bit. Okay. Same with this. Space that out. Okay. 106. That's dropping very quickly. I'm actually very happy with what I'm seeing. I didn't have a lot of confidence in this. It's true. 16, 15, 14, 12. Wow. That's good. That's good. Look at this. 5. I think we have an airtight mold. And the bagging is airtight as well. Surprisingly enough. Wow. Shake. That is amazing news. I didn't even have to fight it. I honestly thought it was going to be on a long chase of finding leaks. Alright, I got it all connected, all turned back on. The mold is in nice upright. Now I'm watching my actual gauge. Everything's still looking fantastic. Alright, 20, 19, I think we're still good. Awesome. So grab these clamps. Okay. And shoot. That is really good news, the fact that we're not leaking. So the last thing for me to do is to clamp it off. So let's see here. We're at 0. Let me just shut it off just to confirm. Yep, 0 and -1. Awesome, we're not leaking any air. So what I'm gonna do is just clamp this off, and then I'm gonna mix the resin and start the infusion process. So I'll shut it off for now. All right, and the infusion process has begun. I'm gonna throttle it down just a little bit more because it is that forged carbon or chopped carbon material. I want it to go a little slower so it really goes through the whole material. But yeah, off to the races we go, and I'll update on the demolding stage, because that's the last step, is to see how it comes out of the mold, whether it even looks good or complete trash because of those areas. Because if those areas don't look good, it's a fail. All right, pop this one out of the oven. It's gonna just cool off now before I start demolding it. Here's this interesting little thing. So this is like my vacuum line, and that's how far up the resin went before it just stopped moving up the line. So as you can see, it wasn't that bad considering it was literally pulling resin in. But yeah, so I'm gonna let this cool off, because the resin does harden even more when it gets colder. And then I'll demold it. I'll probably have to throw it in the freezer just because I don't want to risk damaging the mold. But fingers crossed. I have absolutely no idea what it's going to look like, but I don't think it's going to look good. We'll see. Let's see what we did. All right. Okay. First, I'm going to see if the mold has any primer missing, and it doesn't, which is a good sign. Now it's the part. Okay. Oh. All right, this is not awful. Oh, well, that's the trim line. So we got a little bit of bridging. Where did this happen? Okay, so it happened right here, just so I know for the future. But it's not awful. Wow. This is honestly very, very surprising. I did not have any hope for that area. This is fantastic. I am very excited about this. So that's my cut line. All right. It gets a little harder to see on this side, especially right here, but it's somewhere around there. The part is kind of semi-glossy too because of the mold finish, so that's awesome. But there it is. Take my GoPro off and really focus on what I'm showing. So right there, that's the only area where we have a little bridging, and that's actually gonna get trimmed off, so it's not even that big of a deal. This came out way better than I thought it would. All right, here we have an update. I trimmed the edges and just doing a test fit. It fits very nice. I might round off this edge just a little bit, not too much. But overall, it does exactly what I wanted it to do. Hide all the red on the backside, line up with this flowing edge right here, and give the inside bend just a little bit more drama. So yeah, now I'm just gonna see here, it gets a little tight. So once I trim that, it will sit flush, and I don't want to scratch the bodywork. But yes, it's getting there for sure. All right, here it is. Here's the final product. So got it all wet sanded, clear coated, wet sanded, buffed out. And now it's a little bit sunny, not too crazy, but you can see how the carbon fiber, forged carbon, chopped carbon, whatever, reacts to the sunlight. Overall, pretty happy. I'm gonna commit to the other side, so I'm gonna have to start 3D printing that one, but yeah, awesome. Interesting product for sure.